Hello. Before we even begin, I'd like to thank all of the tech staff, Fraser, Magic, and all his crew, who have done a tremendous job to turn this venue into what you see parts of today. There's much more beneath your arses. I'd also like to thank Hilary, Mark, Michael, Donald, Big Vern, and everybody who run the front of house and bars, and all their staff. And to Eva, to Gemma, Anthony, Jen, and Jen, and everybody at the stand for all their work that they've done in the programming and publishing and everything else. I'd like to thank the landlords of the building, especially Clark, who has been incredibly kind and helpful in getting us to where we are at this almost starting point. And to Jilly Bain from UGB Events for getting us involved. I have to thank our sponsors who have given us a little bit of money, Edinburgh Gin, Spencerfield Spirits, Innocent Gun, Majestic Wine, Bellhaven Brewery, and to White Spider for the print. I'm Kenny. I work for the Stand Comedy Club, which is a dysfunctional family of depressives, recovering alcoholics, and misfits along in York Place. We have had, for all kinds of reasons, a tough year. And we, as a family, we hang together and we bear each other up. But I'd like to ask you, please, to just quickly raise a toast to absent friends who couldn't be here today for one reason or another. To absent friends, please. So we'll begin. For all kinds of reasons, this is a special year. It's the 250th anniversary of the New Town, a celebration of the Scottish Enlightenment. It's the centenary of jazz, 70th International Festival and the Fringe Festival and others. It's also my 20th Fringe. And like every year, I say this is getting too hard for an old man like me, and this may well be my last. We'll see, this could well become my resignation speech as it develops. Crucially, it is also the first year we'll be running the Newtown Theatre for the Fringe. So how did we get here then? It's a long and winding story with many twists and turns. I can't go into it all, but I do have to mention how we find ourselves in this building now and not in St Andrew Square Garden. Despite running what have been universally acclaimed events in the garden with the famous Spiegel Tent, the Fringe, Jazz Festival and others, we were told that the owners of the square did not want any further events to be held there. We looked for different locations to locate the kit and caboodle we'd done, but none were suitable for all that we did, so our collaboration with the Jazz Festival has been suspended, and they've had a tough time too this year, having to go to a far less amenable situation down in Princess Street Gardens. And minus the famous Spiegel Tent and our help with site build and management. And a big well done to them for doing so well regardless. Commiserations to David Bates and his family, who I believe have still been unable to bring their tent, the original Fringe Spiegel Tent, for the first time in decades. They and their unique programming approach are missed. We paid our rent, we played by all the rules, we collaborated all round with everyone, even the people who demolished and then built a new building in St Andrew Square. Fraser, have you got a slide you can stick up? There we go. We paid our rent, we played by all the rules, we collaborated all round, we took great care of the square, and we quickly repaired any damaged grass. We had no complaints, and we were gutted to be told we couldn't return, but we accept it as a legal ownership position. No reasons were given, still none have been given, and all we have been told is via Essential Edinburgh that the owners just say no. They want it to be an oasis of calm. The owners have never had the decency, despite repeated requests, to speak directly with us. We were told there would be no further events in St Andrew Square prior to the ice rink at Christmas, sponsored by Standard Life. The vast majority of any damage to the garden is caused by the winter events, and it's not entirely their fault. You can't cover up grass for 8 weeks and then expect it to still be there. However, sometimes it did look like the Somme for up to 3 months afterwards. They've broken the pond, they crashed into the railings, and yet I was unsurprised to discover that Underbelly seemed to plan to host another ice rink this coming winter. They have inquired about buying the internet capability we installed there at great expense, and which we gave them for almost nothing for their use in the winter. They want to buy it from us. I assume that means they intend to use it again. We were told that any future events would not be anything big, nothing built, no structures, all small scale, fully contained within the central circle of grass. But at the minute, it is entirely populated with cubes of black shrink wrap, each weighing at least 4 tons of water ballast, plus kit, plus projectors, plus speakers, plus a massive Titan porta cabin. There's Harris fences covered in black scrim and barriers all around it. Lights, cables, hazard tape are everywhere. We'd never have gotten away with that. It's taken them 2 weeks so far and has so far delivered nothing of benefit to any of the arts. By now, we would already have hosted the Jazz Festival, and we had been in conversations to host a fully accessible disabled event in the intervening period, which got booted into touch. Obviously, the Bloom Standard Life event is more about what those cubes will do and not what they look like, but the way they look inside the garden is bloody disgraceful, and it cannot be ignored. Let me be clear. I am a big fan of projection mapping. I'm sure that the event will be lovely. It's superbly produced. I wish them every success. I hope the people who see it love it. I genuinely do. But I also think that a celebration of the EIF's 70th Newtown 250 could have been achieved in other ways without having to shut down our Jazz and Fringe Festival's venue. We would gladly have collaborated to do so, but the owners and the EIF are persistent in shoving Essential Edinburgh forward to be their mouthpiece, more Sean Spicer than Anthony Scaramucci. I don't even know who's fibbing to whom anymore. Is this even what the International Festival wanted? It seems more prominently Standard Life than EIF. If you don't believe us, count all the projectors facing south. So why are they doing the Bloom event? To celebrate 250 years of the Newtown? Of course. So it makes perfect sense that given the choice between a fully preserved Georgian square like, say, Charlotte Square, or a square which has buildings as recent as last year, you'd choose the latter. If they need to use modern buildings as a backdrop as well as old ones, they could easily have picked their choice from the backdrop along George Street and made a continuous walkway of light. What says elegant Georgian character, quite like the gilt-edged homage to a car park that has been recently completed there. Safe in the knowledge, it will only be Edinburgh's ugliest building for about another 3 or 4 years until the St James development is completed and they put a turd on it. A cynic might suggest, and I'm not a cynical man, it could be more to do with Standard Life wanting to show the world their new building. Are they true patrons of the arts? Why is it the Standard Life opening event, not the EIF opening event? Is it to coincide with the merger with Aberdeen Asset Management that's been recently announced? Maybe if they were truly supportive of the arts, they'd be happy to do this event anonymously. It doesn't need their name. They don't need a fanfare. No questions asked. Here's the cash. Do what you want. It doesn't have to be a Standard Life opening event. Why not an EIF opening event? Who decided that this was what had to be the opening event? I don't know. They won't condescend to talk to me. It's worth pointing out that the Fringe began as a reaction against the International Festival 70 years ago. Their attitude being that only high arts was worthwhile culture. So the Fringe, the Alliance of Defiance, began, persisted, and has grown, and now dwarfs the EIF in every way other than in public funding. The International gets way more in subsidy, uses funded companies in funded venues, and makes tremendous spectacular productions. They're great, brilliant. I've got no complaint about that. The arts needs to be funded, should be funded. But I'd hope that they would behave with a bit more humility, civility, and courtesy to those who are working their arses off, putting their savings on the line, and taking real risks for their futures because they believe in their art. Incidentally, since Standard Life manage my pension, and they won't speak to me, even though I hold shares in the company, would they please explain to me how investing in the security of my future is best served by removing a third to a half of our company's annual turnover? It's an ill wind, however, that blows no good at all. Oh, that's the wrong one. Just take it off. Take it off. It's an ill wind that blows no good at all. And on the journey of trying to keep our collaborations alive, though we failed in that for this year, we have made other friends, more friends. We haven't lost our old friends. And we hope that this will give us a fresh start with more certainty. We're working with the Book Festival on the street outside, and we hope to get along with them and do a good job together. And we're working with Essential Edinburgh on the street outside. We hope to do a good job and make everyone happy. We've stepped in here to work with URGB Events to help keep the Newtown Theatre alive because it was not going to be able to go ahead as, oddly enough, this block of George Street can't be closed. I don't quite know why. Maybe we don't own a bank. This is it. We've been wronged and wronged and wronged and wronged. But sometimes enough wrongs will make a right. And the right that it makes is right here and right now. And this is where we're starting from. And we hope you like it. Come see some stuff, tell your pals, bring your friends and family. Buy tickets, please, or we have to sell houses. Take some programs, tell your friends. Go see some stand-up in York Place too. The Stand Comedy Club is as world-class a company in its own field as Standard Life, Asset, Aberdeen, whatever it is, happens to be within their world. And we will not be told what is valid as art and culture by people who knock down listed buildings in a World Heritage Site just to put up a gilded imitation of a car park. On the bright side, at least it bolsters Inverness's bid for UNESCO protection. This will be news for Tommy, so chill. We've probably spent every buck of profit from last year and more on turning this echoey old building into a blinder of a fringe venue that can rival any contenders. And though it has been a late-in-the-day struggle, Gemma has put together a programme in collaboration with others like Stephen and Fair Play, which will make you laugh and cry and ponder and reconsider and think. Because although the Enlightenment began here a quarter millennium ago, it cannot be allowed to end. And Edinburgh needs to remain a crucible for developing new approaches to deal with the modern world. We haven't solved it yet. With all the tumult of Trump and Brexit, displacement, refugees, identity, sexuality, future employment, robots. And the fringe will be the main ingredient in that cauldron. And we will stir that pot and we will feed and poke that fire because we will not just shine lights onto shiny, shitey buildings. We will shine lights into your hearts and into your minds because we are proud to be part of the Alliance of Defiance, which remains as pertinent today as it was 70 years ago when my mother was 5. That's enough. It's enough from me. On with the fun. Please welcome Susan Morrison!